Good morning. Hey, Scott from Northern Virginia. Welcome to Wednesday morning here in San Diego. We are going to get started here in just a few minutes, but thank you so much for joining me. I am very excited about this. Woke up early this morning, getting ready for this. Really excited about what I have to share and then what I have to announce because it is awesome. As you guys are filing in here, wanted to throw this up on the screen. There is about a 20-second delay between what I am saying and what you are experiencing. So if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have suggestions, if you think of something while I'm talking, feel free just to drop it in the comments and I will get back to all of those at various times throughout this conversation this morning. So typically it's polite to wait until someone is done speaking to ask a question. In this case, I encourage you, drop it in the comments as soon as you think of them. That way, when I move to the comments to say hi, answer questions, that kind of thing, there's not a awkward silence, if you will, from the delay from me talking and then you hearing it and then you filling it in, etc. So as people are filing in, I'd love to know, let's see, Scott is from Northern Virginia. Joyce is from Kentucky. That's awesome. Where are you guys from? And I'm assuming you can hear me. Those are two. Hearing me is very important, and I'd love to know where you're from because I can't see you. I'd love to at least kind of get a picture of maybe where you're joining from. I'd also like to know, is this a good time? I love doing this kind of stuff, so I'm curious. Is 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific, and various times around the world, is this a good time of day for you? I'm very interested in that as well. So drop those in the comments. Would love to hear more from you. We will get started in just a minute. I do have something funny just to kick us off here in a minute. I was reading a book the other day and came across this story. It really has nothing to do with teaching on video. It has nothing to do with really kids church at all. It has nothing to do with kids ministry. It's just funny. That's all it is. It's just funny. But I think you'll really enjoy it. So thanks for joining us this morning. Looking forward to what we have to talk about. There might be a few people who have joined me on other editions of this same training who might join us as we move through this. Some people mentioned they may hop on a little bit later because they've already been through what I'm going to talk about here, and they just wanted to hear the announcement at the end. So that is perfectly fine. Oh, hi, Scott's wife, Tabitha. Awesome. Good to meet you virtually. That's great. Maryland. Very cool. I was, so obviously Maryland's a big place, but the Baltimore Harbor, that hospital there, I guess I was born in that hospital. I didn't grow up in Maryland. I actually grew up in North Carolina, but I was, my mom and dad tell me I was born in the Baltimore Harbor's hospital. So cool, fun fact. And then I was there probably like 15 or 20 years ago. Hung out in the harbor, went to a Baltimore Orioles game. That was super fun. Which, by the way, it's like random now, isn't it? Like that seems like such an otherworldly thing to do. Like you went outside in public and didn't have to think about it, and you just ate at a restaurant, and then you went to a baseball game. Like what life was that, right? How times have changed. But hopefully we'll get back to, I guess you could call it the good old days. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me tell you a little funny quick story here, and then we will get started. So this is from a book I was reading recently. And again, this has nothing to do with kids ministry. This really has nothing to do with why you're here. I just figured I would tell you anyway. So there's a story told of a new young monk who arrives at the monastery. And as with all new monks, he's assigned to help copy the old texts of the church by hand. He notices, however, that all the monks are copying from copies, not from the original. So he goes to the old abbot and points out that if someone made even a small error in the first copy, it would never get corrected. In fact, the error would be transferred onto all subsequent copies. To this, the abbot says, "We have been copying from the copies for centuries, but you make a good point, my son." So the abbot goes down into the dark caves underneath the monastery where the original manuscripts are archived in a locked vault that hasn't been opened for hundreds of years. Hours go by and nobody sees the abbot. So the young monk gets worried and goes downstairs to look for him. He sees the abbot banging his head against the wall and wailing, "We missed the R. We missed the R." His forehead is bloody and bruised. He's crying uncontrollably. The young monk asks the abbot, "What's wrong, Father?" With a choking voice, the abbot replies, "The word is celebrate, not celibate." I read that story and immediately stopped reading, went to go get my wife and said, "Hey, you have to hear this story. We're not monks. We're not, my wife and I are raised Baptist. So the religious angle of that has nothing to do with anything, but I just thought it was hilarious. So hope you enjoyed that. Well, I tell you what, let's get started. What I'd love to do is share some of my thoughts with you on how to engage via video, whether it's live video, whether it is Zoom, Skype, Google Meet, Google Hangout, let's say FaceTime maybe. Maybe you're FaceTiming people. Maybe you are doing something else that I haven't thought of. Facebook has a live video element. Maybe you're doing that. Whatever it may be. Whether that's your style video or whether you're actually just, setting up your phone or a camera and you're recording a lesson to a video and then stopping, saving it, and then maybe sending it out or posting it on YouTube or something like that. Whatever your method of video creation is, I want to share with you, I think there are 8 tips here for how to make what you do on live video or on recorded video more interesting. I've been teaching Sunday school for I think it's like 16 years, 17 years, I don't know. I've been married for 2006, 14 years. So I've been teaching at least 15, 16, somewhere in there at least. Obviously, haven't been teaching on video as long as that, but I've done my fair share of video work between this and then just random video stuff. So I've got a little bit of experience. If you happen to be like a television anchor, then you have way more experience than me, and I'd love your input. But here are some of my thoughts. So let's get started. The first thing when it comes to being interesting on video is you need to hook your audience. And what I mean by that is you need to consider the first 15 to 20 seconds to be some of the most important time of that entire video. When we as teachers think about a lesson, we think about the truth that we want to share with our kids or the people that are listening to us. We think about what message we want to convey, and that's important. That needs to be considered. We're ultimately teachers, right? But if the first 15 to 20 seconds of your video is not interesting, you won't get the chance to convey that message because people will be checked out and turned off. Think about television shows. Think about Netflix. Think about movies. There's always something in the beginning that makes you go, whether it's the classic, like they show like if it's an episode of a show, they show something really dramatic or really funny at the very beginning with not a lot of context. So maybe you don't understand exactly what went on, but you kind of think to yourself, well, now I have to watch. I need to know that. Or think about communication. If you're advertising something or if you're talking to someone or if you're giving a speech, some of the best way to get people interested is to tell them, hey, I've got something at the end to tell you. Or, did you know that it's possible to do this, this, and this? Or, I thought of something you may have never thought of before. If you think of something clever, something interesting, even just something funny, all of a sudden people are like, oh, this should be fun. Because people make a very quick evaluation. They're not going to take 5 minutes to watch your video and figure out if they like it. They're going to figure out if they like it within seconds. So make those first moments very, very purposeful. Hi, Darlene from Wisconsin and Tracy from Oklahoma. I love it. Lavisha, I think. Glad to have you here. Anita, Rosalind, love having you guys here. So number 1, hook your audience. The first couple of seconds is key. Number 2, break the ice. I actually did this with you guys as we were beginning this conversation. What you need to do is after you kind of get through that hook, you need to find a way to help everybody relax. All right? Whether it's if you're comfortable with casual conversation, which is pretty much a one-sided conversation with a camera lens, or if you need to like officially prepare something, things like jokes, again, what I did when we started here, to break the ice are huge, because what they do is they pop that tension balloon and everyone watching is like, there's this subconscious like sigh of relief, like, oh, okay, this is going to be enjoyable. Have you ever, think of all the many pastors. How many pastors start with or in the first couple minutes, they tell you a story or a funny anecdote, right? So they tell you a joke or something, right? So I actually have 2 jokes here that I want to tell you. The first one I'm going to tell you, but I'm not going to give you the answer. The second one I'm going to tell you and give you the answer. And then by that time, you'll have caught up with the video, and maybe in the comments, you can tell me the answer to the first joke. All right? So I'm going to tell you the first joke, no answer. Put your answer in the comments if you can figure it out. Ready? Here's the joke. Why can't you give Elsa a balloon? Why can't you give Elsa a balloon? Okay, put your answer in the comments. Number 2. I'll just tell you the joke, all right? So imagine you're talking about King David and Solomon. This would be a great way to break the ice. Where was Solomon's temple located, kids? And they're thinking, what city? I think it was maybe on a mountain. Was it near somewhere I've heard before? And then you can tell them, well, Solomon's temple was located on the side of his head. Depending on the age of your kids, you may have to tell them whether this is called your temple, right? But again, it helps it's not Scott, it's Tabitha. Tabitha, you nailed it. Anita, you nailed it. You might have to describe the whole Solomon joke, but you get the idea. And yes, why can't you give Elsa a balloon? Because Bernadette says it as well. She would let it go. And we all sing it together. Let it go, let it go. All right. So number 1, hook your audience. Number 2, break the ice. Number 3, visual storytelling. I think perhaps this one is the most obvious, but it's the easiest to forget. Because this is a naturally... All right. I think we're back about that. I got a notification all of a sudden that everything went red on my screen. And it's like, sorry, you're no longer connected to the internet. I'm going to drop in here, connection trouble should be fixed now. There we go. All right. So I think we are back. I think we're back. There we go. All right. So hook your audience, break the ice, visual storytelling. I think that's where we were. So with visual storytelling, again, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So don't just be a talking head on video. Have a way to show pictures or, hold up things that are visually different. For instance, here's a great example of visual storytelling. right? Super simple. But what did that do? All that did was that broke the rhythm of my talking head, and it gave you something different to look at, right? And all of a sudden, coming back to me is now a little bit refreshing, if you will, right? So find pictures, find images. If you find a map, you don't have to be as sophisticated. Maybe you think this is super sophisticated, and you're like, I would never know how to do what you're doing right now, Nathan. That's okay. Hold up a picture of something, right? Like print it out on paper and hold it up like this. I've done that before actually on some of my YouTube videos. I've literally just written things on paper and just played it off as funny and was like, high-tech graphics. Like you can just be funny, enjoy it. But those kind of rhythm breakers are big, because otherwise you are a talking head, and even the most interesting talking head, after a few minutes, well, they're not going to hold many people's attention, much less kids. All right, so hook your audience, break the ice, use visual storytelling. Number 4, play a virtual game. I think when we think of video, we think, oh, everything has changed. There's nothing I can do like I used to do it. Well, that's not true. There are things that still work, and that actually moves us on to the next point. But when it comes to virtual games, think about it, like a scavenger hunt. What a fantastic game. If you're doing like live video like Zoom or FaceTime or Google Meet or, Facebook Live, why not have a scavenger hunt with your kids one morning? Right? The Chick-fil-A that's here in town, I think it was their marketing director, she literally sat in her house, because it was very obvious she wasn't at the Chick-fil-A branch. She was at her house. She told us she was. And she's like, okay, I want someone to go find maybe like a red pen in your house. 3, 2, 1, go. And then you see everyone leave their screen, or maybe they're carrying their phone with them, going to find a red pen, and the first one to show up back on video with a red pen is the winner. And maybe you choose to give out prizes, or maybe you just play for fun. But things like that not only are enjoyable, but it makes video less taxing on people, and it makes the time spent watching or being in class, even though it's via video, it makes it more interesting, frankly. So scavenger hunt sword drills, right? Everyone hold your Bible up. Make sure the it's all the way closed. No cheating. Romans 3:23. Ready, set, go. Super simple. Another one is 20 questions. There's not a lot of prep work. Think of something and then say, all right, you have 20 questions and you can only ask yes or no questions. The first person to guess it wins, one at a time. Raise your hand if you want to ask a question. Right? Just have fun with it. And the 20 questions doesn't have to revolve around the story even. Start with like an octopus as the first thing they have to guess, right? Playing virtual games is a great way, number one, to break the monotony of, again, a talking head or the taxing nature of sometimes watching video, or especially like teaching video, and it just makes it fun. Like, think about it, kids. Mr. Rogers said it, play is the work of childhood. So why not play games with them? They love it anyway, right? And that moves me into the next point. Remember, there's stuff that still works even though it's different. I can think of at least 2 things. I seem to be having connection trouble this morning, which is awesome. So we'll see how this goes. But remember the stuff that still works. So, for instance, callbacks. You know what I'm talking about there? So if you talk about something in the very beginning of your lesson or in your conversation, you say, okay, I want you to remember this for later. And then you give them a word or a fact or something to remember. And then you call back to that 15, 20 minutes later. You're going to have people hanging on the edge of kids hanging on the edge of their seat. I remember. Or another fantastic, teacher technique is every time I say the word, Peter, I want you to say disciple or fish, or I want you to make a noise, whatever it is. Callbacks and things like that work fantastic on video just as well as they work in person. And here's something that I think is kind of maybe on the clever side that maybe you haven't thought of before. But even with recorded video, you can still play a game. Have you ever watched like Blue's Clues or I think there's a couple other kids shows like that where the host or maybe even the characters, the cartoon characters, the animated characters, they will say, now kids, have you ever heard of a... And then they'll just wait and as if the kids can respond and they can hear them like, oh yeah, you have? Oh, okay. They're kind of faking that interaction. But have you ever seen kids? They respond to those questions. They talk back to the video. So why not leverage that? For instance, why not play a game? Okay, kids, I want you to see how many jumping jacks you can do in 20 seconds. I'm going to count to 20, and your parents are going to count and see how many you did. Let's see who can do the most. And then at the end, again, it's impossible to identify a winner when you are, when you can't see everyone, but like how many of you did 10? How many of you did 20? Did anyone do 25? That's amazing, right? Because you probably have parents in the room or you have somebody watching the kids. They're great referees for the game and they can help with the interaction. Plus, if they're not in the room and you say, all right, now I want your parents to count how many times you can, sure enough, what are the kids going to do? Mom, I need you to come here so I can do jumping jacks or whatever you're doing, right? The parents are still there. Use them, even if you're doing a recorded video. So remember the stuff that still works. Let's see here. Tell stories. They're way more interesting than facts. I think we already do this, but let's not forget, even though you're talking to a camera lens, you're talking to something very impersonal. There is no feedback from that camera lens. Like I can't, no matter how funny I am or interesting I am or boring I am, there's no way to tell if it's working. But remember, you're still a person and you're still talking to people. And one of the best ways to relate to people is stories. So share a personal story of something that happened to you this week. Put it at the beginning or the end of the lesson if it has nothing to do with the lesson, or drop it in the middle if it fits perfectly with what you're saying. But giving your audience, like kids, a window into who you are as a person is an amazing way to connect with them. And remember, they've never seen you in this environment before. So telling them stories makes them, oh yeah, I remember this. I remember her. I remember him. Share, be personal, be a little bit vulnerable. It's a great way to connect even over this rather impersonal medium. Which reminds me, change your background. All right? Now, I have a background here, but if I were recording a video, what would be great is 1 week to record the lesson here, and then the next week to go record it in another room. And then the next week, go outside. Remember, maybe you have like, this is a web camera, like a little like Skype camera, think of it that way. That's mounted to the top of my monitor here. But many of you probably have a phone, which has a camera on the back of it. So why not use that as your video camera and then go outside? There's so many places you can go to record, and all of a sudden your video is way more interesting, right? Because now you're in a different environment. And as long as the audio is decent, you're totally good. All right? It doesn't have to be amazing. You don't have to have a giant microphone. All right? As long as it's decent, you're good. But even just the change in background kind of wakes everybody up. And you're like, oh, well, this is different. Where are they? Now, for bonus points, I don't know how many of you have access, or maybe you know how, But if you can edit the video, even in like a simple video editing program, why not tell the first part of the story somewhere and then cut to the next video where you're telling a different part of the story from a different location, right? Change it up a little bit. Have fun with different locations, because you have a good camera right here. Use it. It doesn't have to be the world's greatest camera. If your storytelling is interesting, the details of your camera and exactly the lighting and exactly the audio and exactly the framing won't matter nearly as much. All right. The last one I have is shorten the lesson. And what I mean by that is I don't think you can expect to teach as long as you would like to on video. It is taxing. We are not professional video storytellers, right? And we do not have this amazing movie quality, production quality to the video. So it is incredibly hard, I'm going to say impossible, to hold attention with kids for a long time over video. So if you're used to teaching a 20-minute lesson to second and third graders, don't do it over video. Shorten that bad boy. Here's my philosophy. My goal when I'm teaching is to share the truth of God's word, right? It's to drive home a point, to give them something to remember. But if I'm more focused on the length of my lesson, then I'm going to lose a ton of kids along the way. And by the time I get to the main point, they're not going to be either paying attention or even still watching the video by the time I get to the most important element, right? So I would shorten the lesson. Like, I'm talking like in half. Consider it, all right? Say what you need to say, only what you need to say, and be as interesting as possible. And then be done, right? There's no kid that walks home from Sunday school or that turns off a video and like, you know what I like most about that video? That it was long. The best videos are the most interesting videos. So make your videos interesting by keeping them short. Prepare ahead of time a little bit so you know what you're going to say. And then be interesting. And then be done. Which is almost what I am. All right? So I have two more things. Number one, I want to share with you an announcement. Number two, while I'm doing that, I've left this comments and questions in here the entire time. Now is a great time to ask questions. So, drop your questions in the chat as I am going over this announcement. And then once I conclude, I will come back here and I will hang with you and we will do Q&A time until you are done or until I have too many connection issues with the internet. All right? So, here's what I want to do for you. So for this weekend, as the printer starts, for this weekend, I'm launching a Father's Day sale. So typically, you can get access to all of my curriculum, over 150 weeks worth of material, which include lesson scripts and games and object lessons and songs with motions and take-home sheets, all that kind of stuff. All of that comes in every single one of these weeks of curriculum, and they're all arranged by our theme. So there's the life of Joseph, there's Sunday summer games, there's Daniel, there's Bible baseball, there's one on Peter called something about shipwrecked. I can't remember the name at the moment. But there's Samson, there's fruit of the Spirit, there's all sorts of things. And what you can do is you can use any of those at any time to teach your kids this amazing connected series of events in a really crazy, fun, interesting way. Not only do you get access to all that curriculum immediately, on demand, whenever you want it. It's not like you join in week one. You get to download one lesson. No, you get to download as much as you want, anytime you want. And you only have to be a member when you use it. So if you're not using it anymore, then cancel your membership, all right? not only do you get access to curriculum, but you also get a bunch of standalone lessons, because not every week do you want to be in the middle of a series. Some weeks you just want a standalone lesson that is what it is, and the next week you move on to something else. There's a ton of those as well. Lastly, there are, on the right-hand side of your screen, there are some great ebooks, including one with a bunch of jokes, one with a bunch of activity sheets, two object lesson ebooks. Making Summer a Blast, that pink and blue and orange one, that has a ton of summertime activities. The Dizzy Mummy, that is a Sunday school game for every week of the year. So there's an incredible amount of resources available to you right now, and you can save up to 50% just this weekend. But what I'm doing on this webinar, and only for today, is you can get my membership for $20 a month. That's 30% off the regular price. Now, this is not available anywhere else. I'm going to send an email about this later, but that email is going to say 20% off. So 30% off is only for you because you have joined me this morning. So if you'd like to take advantage of that, the best way to do that is to go to betterbibleteachers.com/30dad and then enter the discount code 30dad at checkout. And that will give you 30% off for life. This is not one of those like you get 30% off the first month and then every other month after that it's $29. No way, Jose. It is $20 for life. So go to betterbibleteachers.com/30dad and enter the discount code 30dad at checkout to get 30% off. That's my announcement. All right. So I hope the chat is still working. I'm kind of worried that we're having issues. We'll see. All right. But if you have, like I said, if you have any questions, now is a great time to ask. I am here. I'm available. I'm live on Wednesday morning, and you, my friends, can ask me any questions you have. It says, please connect to chat. I think I'm connected. I hope I'm connected. I'm going to log on here real quick to another YouTube just to make sure that I can see this. 1 second. Oh, okay. I can see it in this, but I can't see it here. Okay. Are you suggesting we do recorded videos instead of live online? What would be the advantages of the recorded session? So what I'm suggesting is that you do whatever works for you. I think live is fantastic because it's in person. You can do things live that you can't do recorded. You can play more games. You can have more one-on-one personal interaction. I would always prefer live over recorded. That said, if you find yourself really struggling with live video, maybe you're like, I just can't get it right. Like I can't teach a good lesson over video for some reason. Then you might try a recorded video. You might try recording your lesson and sending it out over video. I think the best thing for you to do is to figure out what works best for you to communicate what you want to communicate and then go from there, right? Because if live video is a struggle for you because of the different timing of how video works and the delay, maybe it's too difficult. So I would do whatever works best for you. There's advantages to both because a recorded video, you have no one staring back at you. If you mess up, you can try again. Whereas live video, you just kind of have to roll with it. So I would encourage you to do whatever works best for you. I know that might sound like a little bit of a cop-out, but it's true. You have to figure out how to make this work for you. And like I said, there are frankly advantages to both. I teach middle school and high school students. Is your material available by age group? So my material is available in kind of a 1 it's a one size fits all. I'll say it that way. It's really designed for 1st through 5th grade. So if you have middle schoolers, depending on the definition of middle school, it's going to be on the I'm gonna be on the younger end of that spectrum. So 5th graders would be great for. You could probably make it work for 6th graders, but it's certainly not designed for like middle school going into high school. This is definitely meant for younger kids, for elementary kids. But they do need to be able to, read a little bit, write some basic words, that kind of thing. So it does keep older kids, so to speak, interested. The way I've done it is I've taught 1st through 5th grade for like 6 years now, and I find that if I can keep the younger half of my audience engaged, all the rest of the kids will come along for the ride. But if I teach in my environment, if I teach at the older kids and I have a bunch of younger kids sitting there, if I lose the younger kids, I might as well not be teaching, because it is not exciting. I remember asking a friend one time, like, their opinion, I'm like, okay, I have been asked to teach a Christian elementary chapel. I've been asked to teach kindergartners through, I think it was 6th grade. I'm like, how do you teach kindergarten through 6th grade? That's a huge gap. And again, the advice was, and I agree, reach the younger kids, and you can keep the older kids engaged if you keep the younger kids engaged. But if you start to lose those kindergartners and those 1st graders, see ya. I had somebody ask the other day in this same in this Q&A time, I had them ask about, they had an environment where they had to teach a wide range of kids like that, and it was the same thing. And I even said, like, with the older kids, if this is a regular thing where every Sunday you're teaching that wide age group, then have the older kids help you. Have them maybe help them tell the story if they're, if they can handle that, or help them sit with the younger kids, or have them help run games or participate. Have them be kind of your junior leaders. Give them responsibility, especially for the ones that give you trouble. Give them some responsibility. That often does wonders. All right, so a couple tips there. Is it easy to print books off, or do we have to look that on them? Sorry, I can't read this morning. Is it easy to print books off, or do we have to look on an iPad to use? No, you do not have to look on an iPad. All of these lessons come in a Google Doc, much like a Word document, Microsoft Word, which you can download, you can edit, you can print. They're actually, I would say they're almost easier to print than looking at them on an iPad. It's like, again, looking at a Microsoft Word document. So they're specifically designed to print out, because I don't know about you, but I'm not a big fan of teaching from a device. Like, there's people that do it well. I'm not knocking it, but I don't teach from a device. I try not to teach from anything. I try to remember what I'm going to say and then just teach. But if I have something, it's usually something either printed out, or I make, kind of shorthand notes and then bring that with me. I'm very much of a paper person, or if you will say manual person when it comes to teaching, because as we experienced this morning, I don't like technology getting in the way when I'm trying to communicate. So eliminating as much of that as I can, I think, is tremendously helpful. I teach middle school age kids sometimes, and I take your ideas and expand them. Exactly. That's perfect, Bernadette. Bernadette, that's really why I do this. I hope that nobody that uses my curriculum, I hope that nobody just prints it out and is like, the Lord said to the children of Israel that he was going to punish them if they didn't obey. Like, that's not what I want. That's not my goal for you. What I want to do is I want to give you the ideas. I want to pile on the ideas to you. So every week you can read the lesson script that I provide and I want to use that, and that. Great. I know where I'm going with my lesson. And then you can use your personality to present the ideas that I gave you. All right. I provide a lesson script because some people, frankly, they want a lesson script. They want, tell me exactly what to say. That's what I want to say. And frankly, for volunteers, sometimes a lesson script is exactly what they need to feel comfortable. But for many teachers, they want to read the script, read the ideas, pick and choose the ones they like the best, and then go with that. That's great, Bernadette. Hands on paper, people. Woo woo for the win, right? I love paper. One of my favorite teaching tactics is to take a 4x6 or 5x7 card and literally write, depending on what I have going on, but just write 2 or 3 words at the most and put maybe 5 to 7 on my paper. And that should be enough, especially for 10-15 minutes, where you can remember in your head that list of 3 to 5 points, and then you mentally just go through those points as you're teaching. That's what I love to do. I think it makes it super engaging, and that way, again, I'm not stuck to notes like this reading, and those poor kids are like, when is this lesson going to be over? If we print a book off now, can I use it again in 2 years if we no longer have a subscription? Meaning, are there resources on your website I can only access with a subscription? So, Krista, this is a great question. I get this via email all the time. Here's the way I'll phrase it. I like to say, as long as you're using the material, you need to have a subscription. However, there is no mechanism by which I control that. In other words, it's the honor system. So I ask that as long as you have a membership, I ask that if you have a membership while you're using the material. That said, if in 2 years you want to come back and use one lesson, please don't sign up again for one lesson. However, in 2 years, if you come back and you're like, I want to use the curriculum again, then sign up again. Besides, in 2 years, there's going to be a whole lot more up than there is now. So I would say if you're going to regularly use the curriculum, have a subscription. If you're teaching from this material in 2 years, once every 6 months, then please don't sign up again. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions, but I think that's what you were asking. Any other questions about the sale, about my curriculum, about teaching kids, questions about the presentation, questions about the random picture on the wall behind me? I just thought it was cool. I really don't know what was going on. Somebody already on a video call said it looked like my head was exploding if I line up with the picture. I don't know. Any last questions, comments? While you are typing furiously to ask a question, I'll remind you that today only you can get 30% off the monthly price, and that's locked in for as long as you're a member. So you only pay $20 a month. I did the math this morning in my head, and I believe that you'll save $108 over the course of a year. So over the regular membership price. So that is a fantastic way to do this. You need to enter the discount code 30DAD at checkout. That's how it's done. This website here will take you directly to there to enter that discount code. The one you see at the bottom of the screen now, where's the bottom of the screen? Right there. That one. So that one says betterbibleteachers.com/dad. That just takes you to the Father's Day page. And then from there, if you click on, yes, I want to sign up for a monthly membership, you can enter 30DAD there as well. Roslyn. Hi, Roslyn. I love your avatar. That is awesome. Sweet. Okay. Do you give music links? Both. So every curriculum, I try to find 2 to 3 songs that fit the curriculum, that fit that particular series. And then I provide YouTube links for both the lyrics and the songs. Sure, you can go find, songs on YouTube yourself. I just find it's much easier just to have it, ready on the go, super accessible. So every curriculum will have different songs to go with them. But the way I figure is that with a 4, 5, 6, 7 week curriculum series, it's nice to have the same songs as the kids kind of learn them. And that's also why I'll occasionally sprinkle in familiar songs in multiple curriculums. That way, every week, the kids aren't like, I've never heard this song before, and I don't know the motions or the lyrics or anything. What am I going to do? Right? Like, familiar songs are like a familiar hug, right? Like, well, post-COVID world. It's like going to your favorite concert and the band doesn't play any songs that you know. You're like, oh, great. I'm glad I'm here so I can sing along to nothing, right? Familiar songs are good. So kind of sprinkled in. Tracy, I will answer your question. I think we all need to talk to Rosalind about where she got her avatar and go from there. But anyway, I need to move off of that. Tracy, hi Tracy. Can you buy for the whole year instead of monthly? Absolutely. If you go to this link right here, and you go to checkout, it's actually written on the page as well. You can use the code 50DAD and save 50% off of the yearly price. So that deal is good for the entire weekend. So you can save 50% off the regular $300 a year curriculum price. So for this weekend only, you can get the entire year for $150. That's a yearly subscription, so it'll just renew until you are done or otherwise. But yeah, you can absolutely, and that will lock it in. So it's not, year one is not 150 and year two is not 300. It is 50DAD for 50% off the yearly price. Yes, Krista, 50DAD for the yearly price. 50DAD will not work for the monthly price. So you can get 50% off the yearly price if you would like. I hope that makes sense. If you go here, if I'm confusing, that will give you more information. Perfect. All right. Does anybody have any more questions about teaching, about details of a sale, curriculum, questions? Before you guys go, I would be curious, is there a topic that you're like, I would love to join a training session, much like this one, that would teach on this subject? Is there any subject that you're like, I would love to learn more about this? A couple thoughts is, would any of you be interested in like a volunteer training? I have a lot of advice on how to recruit volunteers, how to keep volunteers. I consider myself a professional volunteer. So I know a lot about that. Would that be something you're interested in? I also thought about doing something particularly geared to teaching audiences that are a wide range of ages. So how do you teach, kindergarten to fifth graders in the same room? Maybe that'd be interesting. Another one I thought about doing would be how to adapt, whatever curriculum you use, whatever lesson you're using, how to make it more interesting or how to adapt it for your style. How to take what's printed on the page or written in a book and how to make it come to life in creative ways. So are any of those sound better than the others? Or maybe you're thinking like, oh, no, not those at all. I have a totally different idea that I would love to see. Drop it in the chat. I'd love to know. I'm always interested in what you guys want to learn about because I consider, part of my job is to create curriculum, but I love connecting with you on places like this and just talking about how to do this better. That's really fun. So any thoughts on that would be awesome. All right, I will make one more loop back around. Any last questions, comments, concerns, things you'd like to say? Now's the time. Wide range of ages, Tracy. All right, I can do that. Like I said, I did a Christian elementary school chapel for kindergarten through sixth grade. That was interesting. Oh, the Bitmoji app. Okay, nice. Perfect. Yeah, kindergarten through sixth grade is a challenge. So I'll consider the wide range of ages. I think that might be a fun deal. Well, if there are no more questions, thank you so much for joining me today. I don't think I have any dads on the call, but if there are any dads that I'm not aware of, happy Father's Day. For all of us that have a dad that is still alive, my dad's still alive, make sure you remind him of how much you love him this weekend. And happy Father's Day to all of your dads. I hope you spoil them as much as you can with the with the goings on right now. Teach for this is helping. Oh, good. I'm glad, Tracy. Oh, hi, South Africa. Yes. Okay, so this is terrible. Every time I see a new comment, I'm like, oh, I have an idea. But South Africa, my family and I went to Africa. We went to Kenya, went to Zimbabwe, and then we went to South Africa. We saw, I think it's Tabletop Mountain. We were there, this was a while ago, when I was like teenager. But I've been to South Africa. I've seen where is it the Black Sea and the Indian Ocean meet, I think? Seen that. I thought South Africa was awesome, frankly. I think we were in Cape Town. So, anyway, love it. Would like to listen to you with the wide age range. Okay, great, Tammy. That sounds like a fantastic idea. I will work on that training and maybe bring that back here soon. I know all of us right now are trying to figure out what's next for our different churches and how we're going to do ministry in the coming days. So, I love connecting with you guys and hearing your ideas. I don't have a graphic for it, but if you need to get in touch with me, I'm Nathan Johnson. You can visit betterbibleteachers.com/dad for the sale, but also on the site you can find a way to contact me. So feel free to reach out if you want to say hi. Contact forms are good because the amount of spam you get, it's nice to just let it go. I guess from our joke earlier, but it's also a great way to say hi to me. So it doesn't go to anybody else. It goes to me. So feel free to connect with me, contact me, say hi. It comes to my email. I'll respond to you via email. So it looks very impersonal, but it's actually very personal. So shoot me a message if you need anything. I am going to jump off of here. I'm going to drink the rest of my coffee. And thanks again for joining me. Have a fantastic day today. Take advantage of the offer while it's still up. I'm going to close it down at the end of the day. So if you want 30% off, now's a good time. All right? Thanks again. And I will see you inside the membership or on the next training.